So today we are looking at paragraphing. But before you paragraph or you go into paragraphing your work, you need information as it's already discussed. And then information can be gotten from where? From prolific writers. Is that also? And then we said that when you have the information, what you do is to chronicle it, note it. And by noting it, we say you are making notes. You are making notes. That is to chronicle the information that is gathered from whatever you have read. And normally you do the reading from experimented writers and all that. That is not to be negotiated because everybody understands the processes. Okay, right. And as we said, I need to reiterate that if you want to remember as much as possible, what you do is you go to some aspects of the material in question. Because of deadlines, you cannot really read integrally. And nobody really says that you should read all the books that come to your purview. Nobody is saying that. Because deadlines are very critical in academic writing. Because you can be the best of researchers if your work does not get to the end point. That is the instructor. Work done is zero, isn't it? And so please, as you do your research, be mindful of deadlines and make sure that you stay within the stipulated time and submit appropriately. Why are you now coming to class? She has even spoiled my thing. Forgive me, it's about my darling girl who came to class late. I'll give a name to you for anybody who is interested to apply through me. Okay? All right. And so your work really thrives on requisite information. I think that one is negotiated. And so the information can be gotten from where? From those prolific writers. But you know, man is so forgetful. We live with a disease called oblivion. So after making notes, to make notes means that you chronicle the information that you get from your prolific writers. You understand that? Now you need the notes because man naturally is oblivious. Man naturally is forgetful. So if you don't make notes, when the writing process begins, you would have forgotten whatever that you consulted. So it is important to remember that reading and writing always go hand in gloves. And so when you read for information, chronicle something, make notes out of it, so that when the writing process begins, you have the wherewithal to really do the write-up and all that. The only thing you probably have to do is that when you think that what you have written is not too receivable, you can revise. Go and read for more information, come and revise until you have the final copy. I think that one is well understood. So granted, we have read and then we have information. And so the writing assignment can begin now. Can't it? It can begin now. Now, you must always see the write-up as a layout. If it's academic writing, then you must respect sheepishly the layout. Because if you do your writing without respecting the acceptable layout, you are not doing academic writing. And so what is it? See it as a formal write-up that has a part that is called introduction. And then at this level, that introduction is not just called introduction, it is called introductory paragraph, which means that a certain number of sentences will have to be prevalent. Not just one or two. Okay? That is why it is aptly called a paragraph, introductory paragraph. And so we'll be looking at how that one is developed. And then after the introductory paragraph, remember that every write-up has a focus. What is it that you want to do in that paper? What are you writing about? You have to state that one categorically in the introductory paragraph. and it is called the thesis of the paper. Is it well shared? Do you understand that? Please, is it well shared? So before you continue, you must remember that it is about something that you are writing. That is called the thematic. And you have read. And so you have the requisite information. But the audience will have to be reminded that this is what I'm writing about. So consciously tell them what you are writing about. That is called the thesis of the paper. Normally it is done in one single sentence. What did I say? Normally the thesis is encapsulated in one clear sentence that reminds the writer and the audience about what they should expect. You, the writer, it reminds you so that you don't go beyond what you have anticipated. And then the audience can also query you if you don't go the full length of what you have announced. So it's a two-way affair. The thesis allows the writer to stay in focus, whatever it is that he wants the audience to know. The audience will now judge the fidelity of the writer, whether he has been able to do what he announced in the thesis or he has fallen short of that. So it's a two-way affair. The thesis really allows you to stay in focus, and it also allows the audience to take you on whether you've been very faithful to what you said or not. So you see, it is very important for you to state your thesis. But when you normally state it, it is stated in the introductory paragraph. Not before it, not after it, within the introductory paragraph. Why should it be so? So that right before the audience, whether singular one or audience plural, before they actually know what you are doing, they have a glimpse of what you should do. And so they want to look at it. Oh, he said that there are 4 forms of musical, I don't know, maybe performances in Ghana. That is what he has announced in the thesis. Now he says 4 musical performances in Ghana or among the Akan tribes or the Igbo tribe. We have 4 different dance forms. Now when the reader, the audience gets to know this, all he's looking out for is what? For you to state the 4, because you said 4. If by accident or by aberration he sees 5, he will say, even though you have helped him by adding another information, he thinks that you have not been faithful because that was not what you announced. Oh, is it understood? Are you really getting what it takes to write? So whatever you state in your thesis, make sure that you are faithful to it. Don't go beyond it. Don't go below it. Stay in focus. Is that negotiated? Are you sure? Let's take another thesis. Thesis is the pivot around which the essay revolves. That tells the whole world and reminds even the writer that this is what you say you want to do. So, oh boy, hey girl, be careful, don't go beyond. Don't go below. Is that okay? So let's get other thesis and see. Now when you say that the Ghanaian economy has hit its lowest ebb. In the introductory paragraph, after doing your introductions and all that, we will actually have time to look at the permissible ways of doing acceptable academic introductions. We'll do that. But today we are dealing with paragraphing. That is why we have started like that. Okay? Now when you tell the whole world or your readers that the economy of Ghana, the Ghanaian economy, has hit its lowest ebb, then the reader doesn't want to hear anything. He wants to know what has accounted for this. Is it not true? Oh, are you out here? Oh, is it not true? Then all he needs to know is that tell him why you think that the economy is in doldrums. I hope you know that expression, doldrums. It means it has hit rock bottom. That's another expression. Rock bottom. It means it is not doing well. Oh, are you all here? And so when you leave it at this, I said the thesis should be woven in one sentence. So when he reads this, all he is waiting for is that, tell me why you think the Ghanaian economy is at its lowest ebb. It is at its lowest ebb because government is unable to pay workers. Importations have really suffered a jolt. People have been laid off. Oh, am I not giving reasons? And so that tells you that from the thesis, if indeed it's a good thesis, then you should get all the arguments that you are going to do in the ensuing paragraphs. Do you understand? If the thesis is rickety, if the thesis is not well done, you will not get the arguments to do in the ensuing paragraphs. What we call technically the developmental paragraphs. So thesis is sine qua non. It is very essential for the writing task. Are we talking? Are we talking? Is this Solankosa? Okay. If Helen says so. Thank you so much. Forgive me, there's a girl here who is selling me too much. That is why. All right, and so that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important for you to do a workable thesis so that from there you are able to get the points that you can highlight in your developmental paragraphs or the mainstream paragraphs. Does that make sense? Good. So if you don't take some time out to do a workable thesis, you know your writing will suffer a jolt. And so the thematic that the instructor gives, carve out a working thesis, and it should be woven in just one sentence. That is the first point that I want you to understand from the introductory paragraph, because we are dealing with paragraphs. Are you okay with that? Thesis is very crucial. And what word did I use? It is sine qua non. Without it, you don't have any academic writing. In the inferior classes, our teachers did not alight so much on thesis because probably your minds were not mature enough for you to understand that. All you probably had to do was to communicate to your teachers, and that was enough. But here, the end result of this formation that we are having in this course is to be able to publish. Are you all here? Is to be able to publish. And when publishing, these are the strategies that you adopt. Your introductory paragraph must be impeccable, it must be catchy, it must be crispy, it must be interesting, so as to woo others to read. Because eventually when you talk to audience, you want them to have a behavioral turn. There's something you have seen and you want to share with them. It's a sharing of knowledge, isn't it? So if you don't do it well, then your aim might be dissipated. And so do it so well so that your audience will not really bat you any bad. You see, sometimes it's quite frustrating if after reading somebody's stuff, the audience will ask, but what did he really mean? When that question is asked, then you know what they are saying. It means your writing was ineffective. Because when I read you, I should be able to understand what is it that you are talking about. Then we say writing is effective, isn't it? So, even though we say the write-up, the academic write-up must have a layout, should be well structured. Remember that the intro is a paragraph and it has some number of sentences, including the thesis statement. I think that is well understood. Are you sure? Are you sure it is understood? Let's take another thesis. I have always used this, but I think it's important. It helps students to understand what the thesis is all about. So you can see in the previous engagements, we'll be talking about, okay, you let me hold on. When it comes to topic sentence, I want you to understand that one too. Because people have been asking me, what's the difference between thesis and topic sentence? I said, with all my listening, people still ask. So I will take my time to really let you understand the difference between the two. Is that okay? We'll come to topic sentences. But thesis, let's have this. Teenage pregnancy is on the rise among the girls of Umuahia. Are you from Abia? From where? Anambra. Okay. All right. And so you have seen a problem. You see, normally research is about problems and then finding solutions. That is why I always remind you that you have come to the university to come and learn how to solve problems of society. That's why when you step your foot here, we say you are a unified researcher. So you are groomed. And then in the long run, when you go back to society, society should see you as somebody who is coming to give panacea to some of the problems that have plagued society. But if you go back at the end of your training, and then you are as empty as the tabula rasa, and then what is the difference between you and those who decided not to go to school, those who decided to go and do some trade and what have you? So you see, there must be some difference between you and them. And so you are here to find solutions or panacea to the plagues of society. And so that is how to do that. You normally do that by reading and getting necessary information called solutions to the societal ills and all that. That's very important. Now, so let's say that the introductory paragraph is the first paragraph that we want to look at. The layout continues like this. After the introductory paragraph, the essay, the academic essay, doesn't end there, does it? It doesn't. Then it means you have only quenched the appetite of people and you have left them in abeyance. They want more and there's nothing to feed them. Oh, that's quite suicidal, isn't it? You do a very good introductory paragraph, that's okay. Sometimes we dwell on that to grade you. When you have too many, we can just dwell on introductory paragraphs to grade you. Oh yeah, sometimes it happens. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but these are some of the secrets I share with my students. Okay, so it means that part of the essay is so critical. Do it well, but you have not argued. When you succeed at doing the introductory paragraph, that is an end in itself, but please, the whole essay is still undone. Essay, and for that matter, academic essays thrive on argumentations. Argumentations that come in the form of what? Supports and evidences. And so if you don't have what it is that you want to talk about, then do you think you have written any worthwhile essay that should be commended? So you see, so that is fine, do the introductory paragraph, okay, but remember that a bigger task awaits you, and that is the mainstream paragraph. So we are on the second paragraph, isn't it? The first that we have talked about is the introductory paragraph, and then the second that also constitutes part of the structure of the essay or the layout of the essay is the mainstream paragraph, also called developmental paragraphs. And then in the layman's language, it is called the body paragraphs, layman's language. At this level, we prefer to call it what? Developmental paragraphs or mainstream paragraphs. I'm sure you'll be romancing with your books and slides and what have you. All right. Okay. Now, so let us come there, because that is where all the argumentations are made. Now, if you go back to the thesis, and the thesis says that the Ghanaian economy has reached its lowest ebb. You know, I've said it again in another way. There's so many ways to kill a cat. I've said it in another way, but it's the same stuff, isn't it? Then, this is the conscientization that I've given to my audience. So, they are going to pull me to see whether I'm going to be very faithful to what I announced. Oh, are you all here? And so, in the body paragraphs, I should be able to tell the whole world that these are the points that have really informed the thesis that I rightfully put wherever I put it. And so if I say the economy has reached its lowest ebb, how? How? I should be able to say that, one, I even mentioned them to you, you remember? But it is in the body paragraphs that you have to really let them know that indeed that is what you think about the topic that you have put in that thesis. All right, so in the body paragraphs, that's the layman's language, isn't it? We'll rather call it the mainstream paragraph or the developmental paragraphs. Now, why do you think that it is called developmental? Because that is where you develop the thesis. Oh, are we here? That is where you develop the thesis. So if I say I'm taking another one, have I spoken about teenage pregnancy? Let me take that one for instance. Teenage pregnancy is on the rise among the girls of you like Abokobi too much. Choco. Any name Momo here. Aba, there's Aba. Why have I forgotten your city? Anambra, the city there. Oka. All right. Okay, so teenage pregnancy among the girls of Oka, Accra, Legon. So you add it. Is that okay? Right. And so that is the thesis. Now we say we have come to a part that is called developmental. What are you developing? You are developing the thesis. And so the correct way of getting the argument from the thesis is to turn the thesis or part thereof into a question. Oh, come on, did you hear that? If you want to do well in the developmental paragraphs, remember that there was a certain thesis that you put in the introductory paragraph that should guide you to write the essay. Because if you go beyond it, then you are not staying in focus. And so the write-up is not academic again. Whatever you have announced, mind you, the audience will judge you by your fidelity. And so if you want to develop the thesis, then the methodology that you have to adopt is to turn the thesis into a question or part thereof. If not the whole thesis, a part, just turn it. So that if you do it well, and if it's a working thesis, you know what will happen? The point will start emerging. Sometimes you will be embarrassed. The number of points that can emerge. I use embarrassing advisedly, not the negative sense of it. You may call it surprise. You'll be surprised. So you'll be embarrassed. And then remember that since it's academic, everything is sentient. And so do only 4. When you have about 12 points emerging, that's if you do your brainstorming very well. All you need to do is to merge them until you have about 4. If the instructor doesn't limit you on the number of arguments to do, you do 4. I'm sure I have always argued this. You do 4. But if he tells you do 3, then do the sign of the cross because your work has really come down. Okay? And so on and so forth. So that is very important. Because people have always asked, how many sentences do I have to do in a paragraph? Do you understand that? People have always asked, how many sentences am I permitted to do in any given paragraph? And what we have always used is what I'm going to share with you. But eventually, when I develop what an academic paragraph is, then you see that, hey, then what we have is a far cry from the expectations of academia. And so, 1, when you do between 5 and 10 sentences, well, you are within. You are within. But I'm sure you know that some people do 2 sentences, 3 sentences, and they say they have done a paragraph. Please, at this level, you have to know that paragraph formation is about sentences, related sentences. Not just sentences, but sentences that relate. What does that mean? It means every paragraph must just elaborate just one idea. But you can say that with very many sentences. Oh, come on. That's very important for you to understand that. We are talking about sentences that go beyond 5 sentences. But we're still insisting that all these sentences should converge around an idea. Isn't it curious? It's quite curious. Because the idea of paragraph formation is to assemble related sentences. How will they relate? They relate because they talk about just one point. And when you get the point from, the point is embedded in a certain thesis that is in the introductory paragraph. Are you all here? Are you getting it? I'm sure you are getting it so well. Oh yeah. So that is it. Now, anytime that you have a feeling that it's as if I'm introducing something more into this paragraph, it is deviating from that one point, the controlling idea, then it's enough signal to tell you that, hey, I have come to the end of the discussion of that paragraph, so I should exit it. Is it understood? Oh, are you all here? Yeah. So I will consciously give you a formula that I have already given to some of you, but we will still do that. And then you see that importantly, it is right for you to remember that once there is a foreign thought in any paragraph, it means you are deviating from the controlling idea. That should tell you that you must exit. Oh, is it negotiated? Thank you so much. So, teenage pregnancy among the girls of Abokobi is on the rise. Sometimes we remove the girls because men do not get pregnant. Oh, is it not true? You see, sometimes we discuss things like this and we don't censure you. But when you bring it back, then we'll look at the loopholes. So I should be able to tell you, yes. Because normally when you bring this one to me, I'll tell you, have you seen a man that is pregnant? A man can have a big tummy, but he's not pregnant. Even witches, how many of them have you seen? Wizards and witches. How many of them have you seen? And so on. So please, whatever you do in writing, you should be accountable. You should be accountable. Is that the best I can give to it? Is that the best possible way of saying it? All this is part of brainstorming or having free association with the stuff before you write. That's very key. So teenage pregnancy among the girls, let me remove girls just as I told you. Teenage pregnancy, among adolescent, oh, that's the word I'm looking for. And so when you use adolescent, then the girls will come. Another one. It's not true. So teenage pregnancy among the adolescent girls of Abokobi. Let's leave it like that. In this case, that is our thesis. It means the whole essay is going to concentrate or is going to be written around what we have announced. That there's a problem among the adolescent girls of Abokobi. Now, your thesis must be limited. Because if you limit unlimited, then that is where we use our colored pens to ask you, why did you not say this? Why did you? Because you have allowed us to ask you that question. But when you narrow and limit it well, then we know that that is what you want to study. Do you understand that? So when you say Abokobi, then I'll not ask you why you didn't go to Omania. I've forgotten that name again. Oka, and so on and so forth. Okay, so please limit it well so that your thesis is not contested. So when you say this, normally in the introductory paragraph, you have to ask a question thereof, isn't it? So what are some of the questions that we can ask? What has accounted for the increase? What has accounted for the rise? Why is it so? And so on. That's a question I have posed on the thesis. Because I just told you that teenage pregnancy is on the rise among the adolescent girls of a certain jurisdiction, isn't it? That's my thesis. That's what I want to write about. But how do I get a point? I am going to ask a question. Why is it so? What has accounted for this? And all the questions that you can marshal in this world. When you ask the appropriate questions, then you see the answers coming. Why do you think girls nowadays get pregnant before age 17? I'm sure you know. Curiosity is one of them. Peer pressure is another. And this, Indiscipline means what? Indiscipline, I love that word, but how do you explain that? Okay, indiscipline, I told you that you can have about 10 and then you merge them. Okay, broken hopes is another, isn't it? Okay, fried rice also, yes. Oh, women like flashy food. In fact, your boyfriends were able to get you because of food. Oh, that is it. When you have a girl and then you buy correct food for them, they will allow you to have your way. That is it. But you have to be very careful. Yes, the boys are thinking about it. They want to, when they give them fees, they'll keep some there. The girls have more money, but they'll give them their little money just for. And sometimes the girl will chop the money and then in the long run, they will not mind you. So boys, advise yourselves. So what we are saying is that if you want to have a very good developmental paragraphs, then make sure that your thesis, which is in the introductory paragraph, is turned into a question. Are you okay? Why are these girls getting pregnant before the right age? Ladies and gentlemen, what I teach my students normally is that when you ask the appropriate question in the introductory paragraph, let the answers be the form of topics, points. Just mention them, ideas. Do you understand that? Don't do full sentences for them. Hey, are you here? Can you really hear me? Let me take it again, because that is how to teach students who want to know how to write well. When you have your thesis, as we have, teenage pregnancy is on the rise among the adolescent girls of Abokobi. Full stop. Because we say it's what? Thesis statement. So full stop. Don't ask rhetorical questions. Ask a question that will elicit points, and that is normally turning part of the thesis into a question. Why is it so? What has accounted for this rise? In fact, what has accounted for this meteoric rise? Add words and all that, because it's writing. Do you understand that? This phenomenal increase. What has accounted for it and all that? Then put a question mark there. That one is not a rhetorical question. It's a question that will lead you to have your points. Oh, are you okay? And I said the points should be left the way they are. Don't highlight them yet. Why do I say that? Oh, come on, because you come to the developmental paragraphs and there you have ample opportunity to highlight the points into topic sentences. Oh, did you get that? Isn't it invigorating when you follow these steps? Isn't it? It is. So please. So ask a question about the thesis or parts thereof. You see, my question was on the fact that it's on the rise. You understand that? So why is it on a meteoric rise? Why are adolescent girls of Abokobi getting pregnant these days? That's a question. That was on the full thesis. Then you say, don't say they are getting pregnant because of curiosity. They are getting pregnant. Then you already do your topic sentences in the introductory paragraph, and that is not allowed. That is not how to write. Otherwise, you have said it all. And so, what is the beauty of the developmental paragraph? Well, you have to develop. Hey, are you here? And so, leave it at the level of points, topics, ideas. And so, curiosity, peer pressure, so comma. If you don't put comma there, it means you don't know how to write. I will deal with your soul, but you are not there. So, until we come to the last one. Then, because of, chronology of thought, after you have put the points, about 4 of them I said, put a full stop there. But announce to your audience. You see, you have to sustain the interest of your audience. Oh, writing is an art. Writing, I say, is an art. And the one who creates the writing is an artist. And so if you leave a certain vacuum in your chronology, do you know when you are announcing to your students, you are not interested in what you are writing, so why do I have to show interest? has to sustain the interest. And so after the points, to the last one, I don't know, the last one will be what? Maybe poor parental control or something. All right. I said for this you can get about 12, 13. But let's say that the last one that you can adduce is poor parental control. That is fine. Do another sentence that will sustain the interest on the part of the audience by saying that the ensuing paragraphs, because indeed, if you don't do developmental paragraphs, you do about 4. So paragraphs. Did you hear that? Oh yeah. The ensuing paragraphs will highlight these points. Oh, did you get that? Aha. And that means that you are ready to exit into the developmental paragraphs. Oh, are you all here? I'm sure you are all getting it. And so since there are 4, paragraphs have a certain hallmark. They are identified by certain protocols. Now, a good academic writer really will tell you that this is the first point I'm doing, and this is what follows, and all that. And before you can do that, you have to brainstorm. Now, which of the points do you think to you holds more water? You understand that? You have to negotiate that. Because sometimes you read from your students and then you see that they are trying to, because I said you are an artist, they are trying to paint a picture, but the picture is topsy-turvy. It is this. You ask yourself, but this point normally should be the first and all that. Please think through before you set out to write. Brainstorm. Think about the points that you are going to do and so on before you start. Okay? There must be a certain logicity in your writing, a certain chronology. Let the dates follow. Let the events follow. Let the narration follow naturally. Let the description follow naturally. Let the argumentation or persuasion follow naturally. Otherwise, we'll say, what is it that you are trying to paint? It is topsy-turvy and drab, D-R-A-B. Right. And so the hallmark of our paragraphs, that's the development paragraphs, have always been this. You use transitional words to introduce them. I'm sure you still remember. And then for transitional words, we have the ordinals, we have the cardinals. We dealt with that in the order. Ordinals and cardinals. So you can start by saying, first of all, then you go back to the thesis, and then you pick one of the points. Curiosity is one of the reasons why adolescent girls get pregnant early. Did you see the way I did that? And that is what is called a topic sentence. Why do you call it topic sentence? Because you have taken one of the topics that came out of the question that you so eloquently posed. Are we here? I'm sure you are now enjoying writing. I'm sure. Or who doesn't really know it? Are you getting it? Chichi, are you okay? Right. And so that is it. If you do it like this, you will be happy because you know the lecturer will be looking for that. And that is just what you are giving to him or her. And that is how to do it. Okay, right. And so when you use first, that is not the only one available to you. You can say one of them. So ordinals and cardinals, remember? You can use an adverbial. Firstly, curiosity is known to be one of the are you getting it? Or you can use a phrase to begin with, to start, and so on. Are you all here? So you see, you can use ordinals, cardinals, adverbials, phrases. Are you okay? And this is where you have to be very careful. Now, the academic essay starts with a topic sentence, and I've already explained what a topic sentence is. A topic sentence is a sentence that you do around the topic that you got from the thesis. Do you understand that? And that is the first most important sentence of the academic essay. Are we all here? So in doing your paragraphing, you must remember that if you want to open any paragraph, the paragraph must start with a topic sentence. And you must also remember that the paragraph must only have sentences that relate. You must also remember that the paragraph must only have one idea, which is embedded in the controlling topic or point. Do you understand that? Every topic sentence has a controlling idea. For instance, so let me do one topic sentence. First of all, curiosity is known to be one of the causes of early pregnancy among the adolescent girl. You see, I've changed. In writing, you have to be versatile. Okay? Have to be versatile. It's one of the of this and that. But the key word there is what? Curiosity. That is the concept that I want to talk about. That is the idea that I want to explain. That is the point I want to talk about. So the curiosity technically is called the controlling idea. Now listen to what happens to the controlling idea. If you identify a concept or idea or point as a controlling idea, or technically called the nucleus of the topic sentence, the controlling idea, that point is the nucleus, is the I. That is the preponderance. That's the main thing. It means that all other sentences, because you have negotiated that, if it's a paragraph, then it should be between 5 and 10 sentences. And all these sentences should rally around a certain topic. The topic is what is called the controlling idea. So even if you have about 10 sentences to do, remember that all sentences must add credits to that controlling idea. And so we have devised ways, a formula that will remind you that when you are doing your paragraphing, you must remember that the first paragraph must start with appropriate transitional device. First, one of them, and all the things that we have shared. Then remember that it is the topic sentence that is done first in the paragraph. Because when you say appropriate transitional thing, then it means you are going to the topic sentence, isn't it? Which has the nucleus or the controlling idea. So I have said it, so what? I've done the topic sentence, so what? The paragraph is not done until you have done a certain number of related sentences. Oh, are we there? And so after the TS, which is a topic sentence with a full stop, you do another sentence which is called what? Major supporting sentences. Major supporting sentences. Some books will just leave it at supporting sentences. Some are major, some are minor. When you read your book, you see that one there. Okay? So it is when I come that I have to tell you that this is the categorization, this is the difference, and all that. So after you have stated or written down your topic sentence, put a full stop there because it's a sentence. Then do a sentence that explains the controlling idea of the topic sentence. So the major supporting sentence really lends credence to the topic sentence. It can be done using 2, 3, 4 sentences. You see why we have a number of sentences. Now, since we are trying to explain beyond doubt that the controlling idea is important, that is why it is there. So try to explain the controlling idea. 1. You may try to define it. 2. You may try to show its origin or etymology. That word, how did it come into being? We call it etymology. The root. Find the root. Are you okay? Or do you understand what I'm saying? So the major supporting sentence does a lot of things. And depending on the simplicity of the subject matter, you want to do 3 or 4 major supporting sentences. But if it's a complex subject area, then you want to do more because you want your audience to understand that indeed that topic sentence and the nucleus or the controlling idea is worth mentioning. Hey, are you all here? Now, why do you write? You write to communicate. And so if you identify that curiosity is one of the causes of teenage pregnancy, let me understand that indeed curiosity is one of the causes. By doing what? Explaining what curiosity is. By giving me more elucidation, more explanation. By giving me statistics, if there are. By taking me to the origin, and so on, or etymology. Are you okay? It is also called diachronics. You take me to the diachronics, the roots. Curiosity, from the word curious, meaning wanting to know. Have you seen that? Oh, if you want to know too much, then you can know what you have to know and what you don't want to know. You are curious, you are inquisitive. So you see, it's important that we identify curiosity as one of them. I'm sure by telling me that these people are there, it means my time is almost up. It's time. All right. Okay, so let me wrap it. So after doing all this, we'll have time to really elaborate it the more. And at least now you know how to really do a developmental paragraph. After choosing one of the major supporting sentences to highlight the controlling idea, you have minor sentences that will rather highlight major supporting sentences. So you see how invigorating it is. The minor only exemplifies or it illustrates. So you give examples. So once the major supporting sentence comes, then you want your audience to know that the major supporting sentence that you adopted is correct by all standards by offering an example or illustration or an anecdote. So topic sentences have major supporting sentences to explain the controlling idea. The minor sentences also go to explain major supporting sentences. Then there's another one that the book does not really highlight, but it tells you, it wants you. If you want the paragraph to be wholesome, then leave it appropriately. And how can you leave a paragraph? You can only leave a paragraph when you have reiterated whatever argument that you had in that paragraph. It means you summarize it. Are you okay? You summarize it. Or you do a clincher sentence. One sentence that will highlight whatever discussions you had. So there you say, indeed, it is amply clear that curiosity is one of the causes of early pregnancy or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? Then it means you have come to the end of the discussion. In Nigeria, you know, there's something like end of discussion, a car like that. You don't know about it? Yes, the politicians, they buy for their girls. End of discussion. After that, don't come and tell my wife that I had an affair with you. It's a small car. End of discussion. Oh, yeah. And then the girls will keep quiet. As for women, when we get there. All right. And so that is it. Your paragraph must have a closure. And I've just given you one. If the paragraph doesn't have a closure, then it is held in abeyance. And the audience has a right to ask, has he come to the end of discussion? That is very suicidal. The audience shouldn't say that. You yourself close the paragraph. And then when you close the paragraph, then you are ready to enter into a fresh one. And you do this for 4 different paragraphs. Use the same approach. TS plus capital MSS plus small mss plus CS/SS. Then do all that. Use enormous amounts of statistics. Don't tell unrelated stories. Tell anecdotes. Anecdotes are stories that you have lived. And they are in the form of illustrations and exemplifications. That's when you are allowed to do that. And then make sure that you have enormous amount of examples in your paragraphing. Is that okay? Dates, appropriate dates. Percentages, use them. But don't use larger than life speculations. Be very objective. Be very accurate in your citations. Quote from renowned people. All right? That is very, very crucial because you are neophyte researchers. So quote appropriately. When you are done with the developmental paragraphs, ladies and gentlemen, you are left with one more paragraph. And that paragraph is called the concluding paragraph. And then you are not only concluding what you have discussed so far, you are also telling your audience that whatever I announced in the introductory paragraph, the thesis, I have been able to deal with it. And so you can restate the thesis in your conclusion. Hey, are you here? You can restate the thesis in your conclusion. And you can also summarize the discussions so far made. And then you can make recommendations and advocacy. When we meet again next time, we will give more explanation to this. Thank you so much, and have this for the whole week. Okay, bye-bye.